All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er update video. And of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. 2 locations, open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. It's all amazing, but the brisket chili is absolutely my favorite. Go say hi to Damon and Mary and tell them the Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Sharp Corners Sports Cards and Collectibles, 205 Cypress Avenue in Pacific Grove, California. Give my buddy Anthony Catania a call. He's at 831-521-5264. Well, it's the off season, the downtime between training camp or mini camp and training camp for the 49ers, but it doesn't mean that there is no news in Ninerland. And we probably should start off this video as this Niner update video by updating you on the greatest Niner of all, and that is number 16, Joe Montana. Happy 68th birthday this week to the great Joe Montana. It seemed like just yesterday I was 11 years old, and this guy was rolling right, finding Dwight Clark in the corner of the end zone, and, really launching the dynasty, which has become the 49ers. Joe Montana, happy 68th, Joe Cool. All right, a couple other notes around the Niners this week that are kind of interesting. George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are in the new Netflix series Receiver. They had the quarterback one last year. This year, they've got Receiver, which premieres July the 10th, and both are featured in the trailer promoting the series. I think this is going to be cool because Kittle and Deebo have great personalities, and now you're going to get a chance to see those guys in, a really high quality series that Netflix put out. I thought quarterbacks last year with Kirk Cousins and Marcus Mariota and obviously the great Patrick Mahomes, I thought it was fantastic. And now we get the receiver option or the receiver version of the same kind of documentary July 10th. So about a month from now, we'll check that out. I'm really eager to see it. Another thing that I wanted to hit on today is Pro Football Focus came out with their rankings of the 49ers, and they ranked Trent Williams first among left tackles. They ranked George Kittle first among tight ends. In fact, his run blocking grade of 81.1 totally dominated Travis Kelce, whose run blocking grade was 46.9. So Kittle ousts Kelce as the number one tight end, according to PFF. They're 1-2, though, not surprisingly. CMC was the highest-rated PFF running back. Fred Warner was the highest-rated linebacker, inside linebacker. Nick Bosa was, I think, third overall as far as defensive end. When it got to Brock Purdy, they put him in their tier 4. Grouped under the melting pot of starters. So there's not a lot of belief in Brock Purdy. They ranked him 13th at quarterback behind Jordan Love, who he beat in the playoffs, behind Trevor Lawrence, who he beat in the regular season. PFF did praise Purdy's timing, though, and his overall accuracy, but 13th overall, and just kind of grouped him with the melting pot of starters around the league. Brandon Ayuk was rated 8th. Passes to Brandon Ayuk in 2023 generated a 126.8 passer rating. And he also was the number one receiver on post routes and out routes in the NFL. Deebo Samuel was rated as the 10th best wide receiver in the NFL. He led the NFL this year with 32 broken tackles, 10 more than any other wide receiver. Deebo also ranked number 1 on in routes. Among wide receivers. Neither of the Niners' offensive guards were in the top 32, which kind of speaks to the weakness on the team. Jake Brendel, I thought, was the surprise to me because Brendel was rated 21st out of 32 possible centers. His pass blocking grade in 2023 suffered, but his run blocking grade was mid-pack, 15th. So he's not as good a pass blocker as you would think, and he was middle of the pack as a run blocker, and 21 overall out of 32 centers. Javon Hargrave was number 7 among defensive tackles, and he graded out as below average against the run, which is obviously one of the problem spots for the 49ers. Mooney Ward was rated as the number 3 cornerback. And, it's funny. He put up the 3rd best coverage grade over the last 2 seasons behind only Sauce Gardner and Trent McDuffie of the Chiefs. Gardner, of course, of the Jets. That's pretty good. That means Mooney Ward, probably with another strong year, could be in line for a really good contract extension. He's been pretty good. Talanoa Hufanga, they rated as the 13th best safety. He gave up only 1 touchdown in 2023 compared to the 6 that he gave up in 2022. So just interesting just to see where the different 49ers were graded according to PFF. Also on Niners Nation, our friend Rohan Chakravarthi, and Rohan, if I butchered your last name, I apologize, sir. But he has a really good article out on Niners Nation, the 3 most important newcomers of 2023. In his mind, it's Leonard Floyd, who signed a 2-year, $24 million deal. It's Jordan Elliott, who signed a 2-year, $10 million deal. And it's the Niners' second draft choice, Renardo Green, who they took in round 2 of the draft, late round 2. Floyd did have 39.5 sacks over the last 4 seasons. He's been really, really consistent, and he doesn't miss time. He's never hurt, knock on wood. Jordan Elliott was 6th as far as run stop win rate among defensive tackles last year in the NFL. He was 6th best in the entire league. So I like that one. And then Renardo Green, is probably going to be an upgrade over Ambry Thomas and Isaiah Oliver at the nickel spot. If he gets the nickel spot, he could play free safety. He could play outside, but I think they'd like to play him in the slot. And I think he's going to be better than Ambry Thomas and Isaiah Oliver. Now, those are good ones. Absolutely good ones. Here would be my 3. I agree with Rohan that Leonard Floyd has to be number 1 on that list. I think I would go with Malik Mustafa based on what I'm hearing. The safety has, looked really, really good. He's twitchy and he's strong. He's a coverage player, but he's a hitter. I think Mustafa is going to play a big role right away. And I'll go with Ricky Pearsall as number 3. I'm starting to see a Pearsall-Purdy connection on the practice field that looks real. There's a real chemistry between Purdy and Pearsall. And then if I had to go write-in candidate, and I will, I'm going to go with Cody Schrader, the undrafted rookie running back. The Niners have had so much success with these day 3 running backs and guys who were signed after the draft. And Schrader's the next in that line. He's fantastic, man. He was the SEC first team, all conference running back. He's 5'9", 215 pounds. He runs 4.61 for the stopwatch, but if you watch him, he's probably closer to like a 4.45 runner. He's field fast. He can break tackles. He's looked good in the minicamp. Very natural. To me, he's outplayed Isaac Guerendo. Now, granted, it's a small sample size, but in my mind, he's been probably a little bit more impressive, a little bit more natural than the Niners' 4th-round pick, Guerendo, out of the University of Louisville. So those would be my 3, and I wrote in a 4th. Floyd, Mustafa, Pearsall, and if I'm going with a 4th, I'm going with Cody Schrader out of Missouri. A couple other 49er notes of note. George Kittle told Dan Patrick that he screwed with Brock Purdy as a rookie by putting an Iowa jersey in his locker. I thought that was kind of one of the funny notes of the week. Of course, Purdy went to Iowa State. Kittle went to Iowa, thus the joke. Another topic that's out there that's kind of interesting, Caleb Williams of the Bears, the first pick overall in the draft, and Brock Purdy are both among the starting NFL quarterbacks working again this year in Jacksonville, Florida with Will Hewlett. Purdy trained with Hewlett in Jacksonville last offseason. And the focus has always been on just kind of refining mechanics and prepping for training camp and trying to get your best foot forward mechanically so that you're getting the most out of your arm strength. Purdy last year, of course, threw for 4,280 yards and set a new San Francisco 49ers single-season franchise record. But I do expect him to get better in year 3 because this is his first offseason really without injury where he can just train and get better and get stronger and learn. And I think Purdy's going to really bust out here in year 3. Now, other quarterbacks also working with Hewlett in addition to Caleb and Brock, Anthony Richardson of the Colts, Mason Rudolph, who's now in Tennessee, John Wofford, the former Ram, who's now in Tampa, and Kyle Trask, who's also in Tampa. They're among the half dozen or so quarterbacks that are working with Will Hewlett on their mechanics in Jacksonville, Florida, getting ready for camp. A couple other notes that are kind of interesting to me. The Falcons today were penalized for tampering with former 49er tight end Charlie Warner during the free agent signing period. Warner, as you remember, signed a 3-year, $12 million deal with Atlanta in March. The Falcons gave up their 2025 fifth-round draft choice as a penalty, and they also have to pay a $250,000 organizational fine. Of course, they got plenty of money, so that's not a big deal. But the GM, Terry Fontenot, was also fined $50,000. So according to the reports, Atlanta tampered with Kirk Cousins, with Charlie Warner, and with Darnell Mooney in their free agent pursuits of all three free agents. And the Eagles were also investigated for tampering, but there wasn't enough evidence to penalize them. The rule that Atlanta violated is there's a 2-day negotiation period, and teams can only talk to free agents directly if those free agents are represented by themselves, if they don't have an agent. If they don't have an agent, you can call up Charlie Warner and say, hey, Charlie, come to the Falcons. But if Charlie's got an agent in that 2-day window before the non-tampering period ends, you have to contact the agent, and you have to work through the agent. And the Falcons contacted Kirk Cousins directly, Charlie Warner directly, and Darnell Mooney directly. And that's inside that 2-day, 48-hour window. And you can't do that. So Falcons, as I said, cough up their 5th-round pick next year, and they pay a $250,000 fine. And it'll probably be more severe if it happens again. And Terry Fontenot, their GM, gets a $50,000 fine as well. And there was one other note that caught my eye. Joey Bosa says he'd like to play with his brother Nick at some point. Now, the Jets recently, or Joey, I should say, recently redid his deal with the Chargers to stay in LA through 2025. But he's got no guaranteed money left on his deal after this year. And his cap number for next year is $36.4 million. So unless he has just a monstrous campaign, which he could because he's a terrific player, he's likely at that $36.4 million 2025 cap figure to be a cap casualty next spring. He turns 29 on July the 11th. So that's just around the corner. So he's probably already played his best football. He's missed 20 games over the past 2 seasons alone because of injuries. But that is interesting. You know, I don't think there's been speculation the Niners would trade Ayuk for Bosa. I don't think that's going to happen. But I think it's very likely that when the Chargers cut Joey Bosa next spring, that he comes to the 49ers. I think you're going to see Joey Bosa and Nick Bosa finish together with the 49ers. Won't happen this year, but look for that to happen probably as soon as next year. All right, that does it for the video. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.